All right. We are circling around, catching those end of those chapters. Um, Welcome to the class tonight. We are live streaming as well. We look at this particular chapter, the teaching plan and learning environment, chapter 2. And so this was also sent to you for your review, and you'll have study guides to follow as well. So this, when we talk about the teaching plan and learning environment, remember I said we're going to hunker down on really working on building those lesson plans and presentation. I am very non-traditional. So one reason why we were going through trying to figure out just, what's our learning style? How do we receive information? How do we process information? That helps you when it starts to build a plan for your classroom. Because you taking, for instance, my plan, you may not present it, deliver it the way I wrote it. So the lesson goes across, but how many people did it reach? And so I want you to feel comfortable in articulating what you want to say, your words, your plan for your class. That lesson needs to come from the way that you plan to give it. And the big part is based on how you receive the information first. That literally is how you're going to want to always give it out. Okay. And so we want to make sure when we're teaching it that we are hitting those certain points as well as to how they learn. And so now that we have those two concepts, have you learned, how they learn, how we process information, we can build these amazing lessons that they walk away not saying I didn't learn anything today, but everybody walks away saying, man, I have a takeaway. I've learned something today. I told my niece every day when she comes home from school, I said, hey, what did you learn today? And she goes, I said, every day, expect me to ask you, what did you learn today? You should learn something every day. If a student says they did not learn something today, that really is like just like a gut punch, because what did we do? We had great delivery, great presentations, but somebody did not receive and process the information. And so we didn't hit them. And so that's like, hey, it's like a check on us. That makes us go back. And the next day, we got to make sure we hit what we missed, just to make sure that on the other side, that learning is taking place. And we never want to get them too far down the line and then you're trying to catch up learning. That's kind of the worst kind of learning, especially when you have individuals now who have so many different things on their plates. Okay, so going to school is not just their only thing. They have families, they have jobs, they have medical issues, parents. It's so many other things that they have going on. So you want to make sure when we get the opportunity to be before them that our lessons are good, our delivery is amazing, and we are processing. We are processing what they're learning. Okay. All right. So we look at chapter 2, the teaching plan and learning environment. All right. Here's our critical concept. Master educators know things that begin well are more likely to end well. Yes, plan accordingly. Thus, they will plan carefully for the learning experience to begin well. That means whatever you got to do, sometimes you got to pull out the shenanigans, okay? Especially if we're introducing a chapter and it's one of those amazing chapters you love, you may have to bring in a prop. You may have to plan a field trip. You may have to plan a guest speaker to come in, plan demos. All of this help makes the lesson just full of body. Plan a new game, create a new game if especially if some are struggling with terms or they're struggling with the study guide or struggling in a certain area on the test. Plan study sessions as games and put them in groups, whatever you have to do. Let's plan for it. Let's at the end, they should really have a full grasp on whatever their lesson is, and it should be exciting throughout the whole entire class. So super excited about that. Is the instructors really have the leeway to look, this is your class. What a director or school owner is looking for, they're looking for numbers, they're looking for productivity, they're looking for the students to get it, they're looking for them to pass the exam, they're looking for them to be happy in the classroom. And so that's a lot of that is going to be on the educator, how well you present the lesson. And desired performance goals. And this is what I want to say too. Even if your resources are limited to YouTube, okay, spend time to research. Most people go on pull things once they search off the first page. Keep going, okay? You got to read magazines, if you got to read booklets and find out about certain people and go and research, use what you got, okay, to get the results you want. Use what you got. So even if you have a school that doesn't have a big budget where you can do all these amazing things and bring things in, and I'm not asking you to use your budget, your personal budget, because sometimes schools cannot reimburse you. But if you have things that you've accumulated over a period of time and don't mind sharing with this new generation of professionals, do so, okay? But please ask permission before you do that to make sure that it's good. But if you have access to the internet, you have access to AI, you have access to whatever, you can build some very exciting courses with some extra sauce on the side. Let's look at our performance goals that we will reach, and I hope to, at the end of this training, chapter 2. You're going to list the benefits of effective organization and teacher preparation. All right. List characteristics that are common among adult learners. State the goals of classroom arrangement and organization. Biggest thing. Perform the administrative tasks required of the educator and explain what they include. Okay. Simply meaning, make sure that you're organized. Of course, that's lesson. Take the roll, turn it in, okay? Make sure you have the grades. Boom. List characteristics that are common among adult learners. What do you see that's common among adult learners? If I'm in a class, I've been teaching for years, I see a lot of students coming in, not categorizing anybody, but some of the things I see, those students that come in at night, may be tired because they work a full-time job during the day. So I don't do a lot of sit-down work at night. I mostly, if it's a night shift, I want them up, I want them working, I want them to see them a demo. I want to give them opportunity, give them grace coming in from traffic, and then we get started. When it comes to testing at night, it needs to be a quiet place, okay, because of concentration. Most people that are adult learners that come to night school, this is a second career. So they may not be as, snappy and on top of it as the day crew, where they just now coming out of high school, or they spent a year or two in college and they got to do something because their parents say. So they're quicker, to pick up on things. Whereas on nights, I'm gonna say a little bit more grace and a little patience. Okay. But don't be mad also if they ask you to repeat something. They're simply just trying to get an understanding. And this is just years of experience and being a night teacher, some of the characteristics, things that I see. They're going to get the job done. They're going to get it done. They want to graduate. They're going to see the goal through. You're probably not going to have any problems about completing assignments. If it's delivered to them the way that they can understand it, this will probably be a STAR course, a STAR class, okay? They will also help each other. They're going to be at school. Like I said, it's a second career. They know at this point they have bills and things maybe in life that they understand, taking care of business. So that's what I usually see sometimes. And common characteristics of my night crew, and they may have kids. And if your whole class, you just do a survey when they come in, if the whole class has kids, here's what you say. Also, that also changes how you um, not so much speak to them or your voice and tone in the classroom, because here you have now you may have an adult that thinks you're telling them something and you are maybe barking orders or trying to treat them like a child. And so that has happened. That's just something we had a class on this that we always have to keep in mind. We are teaching adults and not teaching children, even though we may have children concepts in teaching, but we are not teaching children. So a lot of times things that you want done, you can kind of narrow it down, say, hey, these we either gonna do this or we're gonna do this. I want the choice is yours. It's a class. I want you to have a choice. I want you to have a voice in this classroom. And so that tends to give them liberty, some form of freedom also in the classroom. I'm here. I got a teacher. I'm doing this A, B, and C, and D. I do have kids and things like that at home, but I'm still able to have some freedom. And a lot of people is just like, what? And I tell people all the time, maybe how you were talking or you're in the tone of your voice. Remember, smiling and things like that, you can get more done. You can get more done because how you would normally talk to your children, you're not going to be able to talk to adults like that. And some people just have a certain way that they have talked to people who were younger than them or people who were older than them. I've seen them the same way. So that is just understanding who's in your classroom. Okay. Um, my day crew, with them, I had to also, with this particular crew, patience, discipline, go in depth, grace, and also breakfast. And in my night crew, make sure there's a snack because they maybe didn't get a chance to eat after their shift. All that good stuff. All of those little things plays and how well they perform in the classroom and receive your information. Um, you'll be surprised. And then state the goals of the classroom arrangement and organization. Literally, how your chairs are set is how you're gonna. Some people say energy, but how your chairs in a classroom is arranged gives a great outlook of how well they're gonna receive information. Okay, and so having open or closed. Ultimately, you do not want to be bumping into people, and you want them to have a place to store their kits, and so that's mostly under the tables. I'm a walker, so I may have them closed in the middle, maybe a circle or a square, and I walk around, so make sure everybody can see me. If they're in a U, I walk up and down the middle of the U so everybody can see me and I be able to do eye contact with everybody. If you have them in rows, I'm a walker. I'm a teacher and walker, so I may walk up and down the rows, or I may walk the back of the class so I can watch, or I may walk across the front of the class, or I may find me a corner in the front of the class to stand by, especially if it's a window there, and that's where I would talk. Okay, that's where I would do my talk and my speech because I'm probably, showcasing a video or something of that nature. So that is one thing as well. One moment. We're going to move to what the master educator expects. So this is what we're going to cheer right here.
I don't know if you meant to mute it, but I can't
I
hear you.
did. I stepped away for two
Oh,
minutes.
okay, okay,
Hold
gotcha.
on. All right, just had to do some confirmation. Thank you for your patience. All right, so let's look at the master educator. What do? You prepare and organize prior to the actual start of class. Yes, so when we talked about someone saying, hey, I want to be an instructor and that's my retirement plan, not necessarily the retirement plan in 2026 because dealing with new generations, new ways that they're doing beauty. I've had friends all week try to get me to talk about some reconstruction in the beauty industry. And what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I said, I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion I can voice right now. If you understand what that means life be life. And I don't have time to really sit back and talk about restructuring because we don't have the time. We're going to need a whole slumber party and meeting at the meeting for a whole week to talk about the reconstruction of the beauty industry because it is not what you think it is. It is so much bigger and it's way above our pay grade and power. Okay. And so when people talk about those type of things of what's going on in the industry and how you should prepare, that's one thing you can bring to the classroom. Create this thing where you may say it's how you brand your product, brand your company. You can brand your classroom and say, you know what, in Miss Edwards class, we have power nugget Wednesdays, or what did Candy say? Candy from Escape, Money Making Mondays. I used to have Money Making Mondays. I took that from her. Or Fridays. They always want something. Save your biggest demo. You're gonna demo, but save your biggest demo to Friday, and let Friday be a business day where you drop nuggets. You have a mini workshop about business, and guess what? You cannot come to the mini workshop, or you call it the masterclass Friday. They can't come to the workshop or to the demo room until you check their attendance, and they had to be in attendance Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By the time Friday comes, you've been here all week. Good, you're good to go. But we have to find a way that we can organize knowledge and information. Things that we know that's in the book, that's not everything that we teach. So the things about restructuring, the things about state board, all of the changes, and stay relevant on the states as well. Even Alabama has called me and tried to pull me in, and I just look. The Lord has shut my mouth on that. I can't say nothing. I barely can post about school. I'm on a lock and leash because you're moved from where you're focused on. So I tell people all the time, all because you're an educator, you cannot come in and just think this is going to be a retirement plan. You have to be well rounded. You have to know what trends are. You got to know what relevant information is. You almost have to look at lifestyle news with the music industry, entertainment industry, to see what they're wearing, see what's going on. The students are going to want to follow the leads. You also have to know what they're doing corporately with products and ingredients. And you bring all this mixture to the classroom, and it's just a box of relevant information. Students want to know that you are not far down the line. They want to know that you actually are kind of, in the loop. And so they feel like they're getting something that they're getting, the bang for their buck. And so even though you want to teach them all the traditional things, do that, but learn how to weave in and out. Okay, I'm gonna give you the traditional thing, so you can't say you didn't get it, so the industry won't fall by the wayside. I'm gonna give you the traditional things, but I'm also gonna add my own little secret sauce on top. I'm gonna add some salad toppings, whatever you want to do. Just build a brand for your classroom where you keep the students pulled in and knowledgeable, relevant knowledge and information of anything you do will keep your students locked in. What really helped me, I think my first 20 years teaching, what helped me, I mind my business, I stayed in my lane, but my students didn't know that I was a traveling educator platform artist until somebody's sister, cousin, or somebody saw me on somebody's page. And when they kind of found out, secret was out, I would go and travel wherever I was going. But Monday morning, they knew Monday morning was a recap of wherever Miss Cox went. So it was okay. We can't really talk about it because we got class starts at 9. So y'all need to be here at 8:30 for the morning recap. And the morning recap was hilarious. They would be able to see my pictures. They'll be able to see, and I made sure I made pictures and videos. People that they wanted to meet, I would take pictures with them. I would ask them to send a message to my students. I would bring all types of brochures back, samples. I let them pick the samples. That was my that was my thing for a while, that to show them that, hey, you can come from wherever you come from, and I'm South Memphis and Fraser. You can come from wherever you come from, and then love to travel and do all of this on somebody else's dime, but all of this on the skill that you're learning here in school. So I would use all of that to say, stay in school, get your license, learn what you can, because you can travel, you can do all this amazing stuff, but it starts right here. And when I tell you that was that was a leader for me, that was the biggest motivator for me for years, almost 20 years. That was the biggest motivator for me. And students would say they were inspired, especially the ones that did not had that or had never been out of Memphis, or the ones that had never been out of Whitehaven, if you want to break that down. The ones that had never been out of Fraser or Raleigh. That was big for them to see somebody that came from the same neighborhood, that just hunkered down, took the same skill that they had, nothing different, just perseverance, and able to do so many other things. So that was my thing on Mondays, to come back and on breaks, after school. I mean, boom, I just had a bucket of samples, and sometimes people just want to hear the recap, They just want to hear the recap. That was my thing. Somebody else may have been a DJ. He always talked about what club he did, and hey, he had seen a student, and he'd tell them about the songs, give them free little mixtapes, and he made the school of mixtapes. We all had a brand for our classrooms, because at that time our school was big on making sure they came to school. So the teachers had to find a way to make sure their students came to school. And we all had personal brands for our classroom. And so in order to get it, you had to come to school. And that was our thing, of making sure we stay relevant with things. And I think it made us better, period. I think it just made us better educators, period. As a master educator, you're also going to develop organized work habits to ensure that administrative tasks such as record keeping and reports are completed accurately and timely. Working individually, working as a team, needing an assistant when you got junior instructors. Let me tell you, you guys are literally trainees for Tennessee, instructor trainees. They call them master educator trainees now. Trainees are just getting the knowledge. You're getting your hours. You're going through your training. Okay. Junior instructors is another trainee, but you get paid. You're actually teaching a classroom. Okay. You're actually teaching a classroom. Junior instructors, you get paid and you're actually teaching a classroom. All right. At that point, you can have 20 students and you are under a senior instructor. So just say at our school, I will be the senior instructor. One of you guys would be my trainee or junior, what we call junior instructor. You would be in the classroom with me. It's almost like co-teaching. Okay. Okay. You would be in the classroom with me. It'll be like co-teaching, but I won't leave you there. I'll help and guide you throughout different aspects of the classroom. Okay. You will at times, that's the trainee. When you're a junior instructor, you'll have the classroom to yourself. The senior instructor comes in and checks on you, make sure you're good, that you're safe, everything is good, they're not running you up the wall, things like that. But and of course, if you have questions about lessons and things like that, that's what they're there for. But that's the two types of instructor training that Tennessee has. One trainee, and then you cross over to junior instructor. Here's what you need to know. Your trainee training shouldn't be more than 6 months. Our training is about 3 months. Okay. So your instructor training should be no longer than 6 months. Then once you get your hours, did you know that you can work on your hours for 1 year? If you had a job today, once you get say you got your hours tomorrow, you got your 300 hours tomorrow, you can work for 1 year on your 300 hours. Okay. But after that year is up, it is a necessity, emergency that you go take that exam, because what if you have got comfortable with a job that's going to promote you and things of that nature? You cannot work if you don't have that license after a year. When I came about, here's a state law, old school state law rule. There was no age difference or experience difference between a stylist and then going back for a teacher. So at 19, if I graduated at 18, 19, I went back for teaching. I didn't know I was ever going to go in that direction, but I went straight back. What helped me is I could work on those hours for 3 years. And that's what I did at a local beauty school. I basically trained, got paid, and trained and I was under an educator for 3 years. And that was the best training I could have ever thought of, can you imagine having somebody that's a mentor for you for 3 years, and then you're on your own? You're ready by that time. But now they don't have that. They only have up to a year. So that's one of the laws that has changed, and it changed a couple of years ago. Got to know that as well. Most people, you look at your classrooms Monday through Friday, you say, what day I want to test? Mostly you'll open up your training on a Monday. Wednesday, you may do a pop-up quiz, just a study guide to see wherever they at. Go over that study guide on Thursday. Say, hey, or go over the study guide on Friday. Say, hey guys, Monday, we're going to take the test first thing when you come in. Now be careful about giving the test on Mondays, because sometimes Mondays get a little hectic. And sometimes fear can set in. They won't come to school, or they come to school late thinking that they have skipped the test. Okay. Most of the time, I like to test on Fridays if I'm in the building with my students. And with our new schedule up, our students will be testing on Friday. So even though they're virtual, they will come in and test on Fridays. And so from there, we get to talk about whatever's missing, and then they can proceed with whatever they have on. So we'll do our theory during the week, but Friday is going to be our test day. Let's look at ensures classrooms are safe while also providing a motivating and comfortable environment for learning. At all times, when we talked about ensure a classroom is safe, you got to be able to walk through without anyone breaking their neck. Okay, so part of their safety is their belongings. So as an educator, when you're setting your classroom up, the desk, you got to make sure there's a clear pathway to walk. Also, state board looks at that. Your school auditors are going to look at that because it becomes liability. So you gotta, even if you're going to be building your own school, you gotta, if you were in Georgia, you gotta have lockers. You cannot open up a school without lockers. That's for their stuff. In Tennessee, lockers are not required, but adequate space in the classroom is. And so you can't have 40 people in one space and you think you got desks, chairs, and all this stuff. People got to be able to move around. They got to be able to move around safely. So just be very careful about and think about that when you're walking into a class, when you're setting the class up. Can people get by? Part of your classroom rules, make sure your bags are under the table, or make sure you go and leave your stuff at the station, lock it up, or whatever you got to do. But safety and it's that aspect is one. Number two, I'm always saying that this is a safe space. And so I give students opportunity to have freedom. Absolutely no bullying is allowed. Okay. And if someone wants to say something, I'm okay with them having an opinion. Literally, it's not going to mess me up, not going to do anything. It's not going to change much. But sometimes individuals don't have anyone to talk to, and they may express certain things at school. Long as we're not talking about anything immoral, lewd, perversion, long as we're not having those conversation, gossiping, things of that nature. Because I've had students on the spectrum as adults, just kind of chatty, and I just let the class know this is our student, like she's literally your classmate, your sister. Think about a family member. And sometimes people have control of it, sometimes things just come out they don't have control of it. We've had individuals who have a lot of different things going on, and so it becomes like a protective space. And so that's one thing where, as far as safe space, there's no bullying allowed, no guns, no weapons, any of that. So when we talk about safe space, that's what we're talking about as well. Also, as we talk about safe space, giving people space in communication. So I'm not all the way up on them. You're not all the way up on them. Let your parameters, your boundaries be known. Okay. So sometimes if you gotta say, give me 50 feet, arm's length away, if you're safe at that motion, you don't like a lot of people cluttery around you. It's just, proper conversation to have. And the educators set the tone, when you get ready to assign everybody where their stations or where their desk is going to be. When you pull their desks out from each other, you're basically setting the tone of this person is one space, and then you're going to have everybody else should space out. That's how much space they should be given. And so we talk about that a lot. And another safe space I need to talk to my educators about, because we talk about learning. Sometimes we have to check our abilities and the ways that we were raised and things of that nature. And then if you're teaching in an area or at a school in an area that is far from how you were raised, which is maybe some things you cannot relate to, I don't want you to make fun of them, okay? Because that brings a wall up. Now it becomes a barrier in the classroom, and student feels like, no, I'm not safe, and I can't trust my teacher, the person I'm supposed to be teaching, that the person that I'm supposed to trust the most. So just kind of when we start class, or if you have a class, learn about, have an activity where you learn a little bit about them. Ask everybody to give you 3 things about them. And what you're doing, you're just taking mental note. You're just taking mental note. But there's a form of maturity also. As educators, we don't laugh at anyone's shortcomings. We don't laugh at the point of they're stuttering words. And I think I've said this before, the Tennessee Department of Education, we are not able to tell anyone in a school or anyone who gets financial aid, we can't say, you read this line, read this slide. We can't do that, okay? Because what if the person goes, the master, I don't know that last word. Or they said, you said skip, then they go prepare, and I don't know. I don't like this. I'm finna go. I'm finna log off. I got something to do. I'm sick. All of a sudden they sick. They gotta do this, they gotta do that. That embarrassed the students. And so per the Department of Education and our accreditation offices that regulate financial aid, we are not allowed to ask the student to read anything. Okay? That's why sometimes you see the teachers reading out the books because the student can't. But when I see a teacher reading out the book, I see a person unprepared. So we can't tell them to read. Reading is for home, okay? A safe place. If we notice the student has a literacy issue, we got to dig deeper and find out how they learn and give them the lesson in pictures. Give them the lesson and having them go to the board and draw. Give them the lesson with music. We got to figure out another way, but we cannot ask them to read. And a larger school will be fined and be written up because that will be going on. And so we just have to make sure our lessons are where learn who your students are, and that we're not defaulting to the least of thing to get the class going, because it could get us in trouble. Okay. This is where how we organize our things. And because you're going to be with these people, if you're with estheticians, you may be with them for 6 to 9 months. Those that come to school every day may get out in 6, 7 months. Those that don't, who are maybe part-time, may be 9 months. And so you're going to be with these individuals every day. So you got to give a straight, organized, a safe space for them. And so just little nuggets. And so that's ensuring that the classroom is safe. Also, we are not supposed to be giving out information about location of students. Yeah. Somebody calls, we don't know. Are they here today? I don't know. If they're getting a service or something like that, they should just make an appointment. And then when they get there, you make those assignments accordingly. Okay. And so that's that's a bigger concern as well. But depending on your class and where you go, you'll develop that safety within the classroom. And really it comes down to trust. The educator ability. Our job is to lead and inspire. Now, here's the thing. I'm expecting my teachers to lead, not take a back seat. This is the time not to dim your light. This is the time to put it all on the line. You are the leader. Set the tone as the leader, and your students will follow. Okay. Sometimes I've seen teachers who have adult students who this is maybe second career, and these adult students have had all these experiences and things of this nature, degrees, MDs, all kinds of stuff. Okay. But at the end of the day, in order for them to get over to cosmetology, over to esthetician, they gotta come through you. And I do my best to try to, I need to probably just do more once we move into our space. It's just, hey, I want to celebrate teachers and I don't want you to fall to the wayside. I don't want you to fall back. I want you to lead the classroom. You will be surprised at the individuals who say, I want my teacher to talk instead of this person right here. And the teacher has to say, hey, let's get back on it. I have literally had to say, I'm the educator. You are the one, set the tone and precedence of who's the educator, who's running the boat without saying, hey, I'm running the boat. Okay. But our job is to lead and inspire. We also create a positive learning environment. Be ready to teach. The Bible says, preach, be prepared to preach in season and out of season. What you talk about, be ready to go in. I don't care if you may come in one day, you got a sub in another classroom. Be ready. you come in one day, they need you to do a guest speaker, they need you to come in and help support another teacher doing an evaluation. Be ready. Okay, you got to create a positive learning environment. If the teacher creates a negative learning environment, the morale of the classroom goes down. No teaching. The teaching may happen because the teacher just keeps talking, but no one is learning. Okay, so it's very important that you create a positive learning environment. A positive learning environment, which means, and we've talked about this before, some stuff you have to compartmentalize. And y'all, I literally compartmentalized at 19 going into that classroom. Some stuff you have to compartmentalize. Compartmentalization is when you take everything you got going on and you put it in its own separate box. Walk into your classroom empty. Teach, do what you're supposed to do. Same way you walk on your job. When you leave your position, when you leave your job for the day, decide if you want to pick it up. But if you carry all life, everything you have going on into your classroom, the students are not going to get 100% of you. They're not. Okay. So some things we have to learn to compartmentalize, especially if it's a negative outlook. I'm never talking relationships with my students. Be careful about being so comfortable because it treads the line of friendship, and that line becomes very blurred and you're not able to discipline or become the authority again. Now you're just a friend who has just enough, I got just enough power, or I got her in my pocket. That doesn't work in a lot of schools and a lot of situations. I've never seen that come out in a positive way. Either the teacher lost her job, chose the friend over the job, or the student flipped on the teacher and still was a negative aspect and the student left the school. And then later on, the teacher probably still lost the job. So we have to create a positive learning environment. And I tell student instructors, rather be confident in who you are. If you're confident in who you are, you're not coming into the classroom looking for friends. You can have fun, but we're not going to blur the line. It's still, they need to still understand who's the educator, who's the learner. This is why sometimes the teacher wears a different color smock than the students. If you wear the same things the students wear, no one knows who's the teacher. And so you have to make sure that there's a line there. There's a leadership in place that they can follow. That's how it goes. You're going to set the precedence of every classroom. When they say when you walk into a room, you make the room notice who you are. Yeah, when you walk into your classroom, your students should be If they do a blood test, it's gonna pull out they your students. They should, and I've seen them talk, do everything like their teacher. So you're gonna set the precedence, and let it be a positive learning environment. Okay. And guess what? They can teach us something and we can teach them something. That's how I say that all the time. I'm here to learn from you guys, and you guys are here to learn from me. Let's just bring it down. Everybody can learn from each other. Okay. So you can set who you are, what's your precedence, what's your standard, what you're there for. And I used to have to reiterate, I'm not here for you to fail. I'm not here to create any kind of systems for you to fail. They do enough of that out there, and they do. I'm here to help you get to where I know you got to go. Okay. And if we're on the train, if we're in the same boat, sometimes I ask the students, I ain't seen them in a while, or I see they're kind of pulled away, or maybe they got an attitude. Are we still riding the same ship? If we ain't on the same ship, we need to have a conversation, because I need you on the ship. You know, I need you on the ship. And sometimes that's just lingo to say, hey, let's do a sidebar. What's going on? And you may even ask the student, did I do something? What happened? Is it something you didn't like? Is it something that caused you to? And I want to nip that in the bud, because their negative aspect will bleed over into other students. When that happens, you've lost the class. So as an educator's ability, you got to always work the room. Okay. You got to always work the room. So that positive environment, smiling, laughing, telling jokes, whether they're corny or whatever, it just keeps that positive aspect up. Provide pathway to success, and also positivity. When I said I'm not discussing my relationships, I'm not discussing any of my personal business in my classroom. Okay. I'm not, we're not doing that. It becomes now we really have blurred the lines. Okay. Provide pathway to success. Provide pathway to success. I want you to succeed so bad so they can see what you're telling them is true. The path you're putting them on is the right path. Okay. You are the right teacher. They are in the right place. See, and this is why I want teachers to be invested in the school, because the school is not just the person that owns it. The school itself is the teachers, the people that clean up, the people that answer the phones, the people that file the papers, the owner. We're all part of the school. Okay. Everybody has a major aspect in making this thing go. Okay. So provide a pathway to success. Bring people in. Let the students know your accomplishments as well. Guest speakers, field trips. Bring people to their knowledge of who invented things. Bring discussions, okay? Provide the pathway to success. Many people don't know, but become a specialist in state board prep. Learn more about business, because what the survey says is that students who start want more business nuggets in the beginning instead of business courses towards the end. All right. And so on the pathway to success, do this so you can get here, so you can make this kind of money. And the money is always the end. License and money is always the end goal the last couple of years, because I've had like Gen Z as a major caliber of my student. And so they always wanted to know why I got to do this. Why I can't just get the money and skip the process. And I have to draw that map to show them this how you get to it. Okay. And that's just giving them a clear pathway. Facilitate learning, which means you can't just read. You're going to have to bring in your experience. You cannot just read. You're going to have to bring in your experience. You got to find some supportive knowledge of why you're saying what you're saying. If you look at the color wheel and we know red and blue make violet/purple, they're going to say, how you know that? Hold on. Everybody going to stay bored, giving me a call. We got to pass. So yeah, you got to make sure that everybody is on the right page, okay? On the right page. When we facilitate learning, it's not just you looking at somebody's lesson plan. It's not just you just reading out of a book and just kind of plain Jane. You're going to have to bring some body to it. You're gonna have to, and that's how I ended up writing my color book because I needed to bring more body to it. The school did not have anything for me to teach color. And I already was having these experiences in the salon. I was loving it, but I wasn't consistent with results. The results, no one ever complained about them, but it was me. I knew that they were not what I wanted to produce, so didn't want to be a fake about it. I wanted to learn more. So I built that. And basic teaching strategies in cosmetology, I built that. And that's just games and how to for every subject. And I did that just because of a dyslexia diagnosis. I'm not the same as everybody else. And so I just figured somebody else's words or letters may cross as well. Somebody else may need another example, and those people may be in my classroom. So let me just break down and create these different activities that help me teach, but also it helps them learn. So you will have to facilitate learning, okay? Which means you got to repeat some stuff, got to have some balance. But mostly, if I would say what could help you if as you study to take and if you want to take a classroom, what help is knowing your procedures, knowing your protocols, knowing your procedures, knowing your terms, and also knowing about products and ingredients. That's going to help facilitate learning to students because they're going to take what the book gives them, then they're going to take what world and social media gives them, but they're going to look to their teacher as the leader, the guru, to give them direction. Okay. And so you have to facilitate learning. Organized environment. Okay. And that's just simply what it means. If you don't belong in this class, hey, you're not going to belong in this class. If you look at your lesson, your book, and say, hey, beginners should be on these chapters, and then what does your intermediate students look like? Those who are 3 months in, what does that look like? What should they be working on? Your students who are at the end, they've had everything. Now they're at the end, what they should be working on. So you'll have to organize this, okay? You'll have to organize this. And some schools will have educators who have, just say aesthetics. They may have multiple teachers. They may have 2. Aesthetics 1, aesthetics 2. The beginners in 1, and when you get to 3 months, they move over to here. Or when they get to 375 hours, they'll move over to the other side. But organizing the environment is just like organizing the information. Okay. Your classroom is your classroom as well. Bring your own personality, but I would leave a space for my students to build personality in the classroom. And so we've seen it a lot as far as organizing the classroom. And so that's something for you to really, if we keep seeing that, that's something for you to really think about. Okay. How would you present? How would you organize? And think about how you decorate your home. That's how you would come in and think about organizing and decorating your classroom. It says careful planning and preparation. Careful planning and preparation just to make sure you're doing your due diligence. That's simply what that is, doing your due diligence. Because at the end of the day, you want to teach, just say you're going to teach advanced topics. We know that's enzymes, chemical peels, all the good, amazing things or whatever, but you have first had to have gone through the basics to get to advanced topics. You're not going to start advanced topics on week 2. The first 30 days they're in classroom, we're not doing that. It is so much more they got to learn before they even get to that particular chapter. And so careful planning and preparation, you will need to take your weekly lessons, your school calendar, and your weekly lessons and put them together. And I would just even take the book. You probably have already done that and say, okay, this is for if you're new coming into the industry, this is how you should teach this here. And then in the middle, you should, once you know that, this is where you're gonna go, so on and so on. I never teach Cosmo, aesthetics, lashes. I never go from the top of the book to the back of the book. Okay. I'm always jumping, but I make sure I go back in because I've decided that how to facilitate this learning for this particular classroom. Okay. So make sure you do a careful planning and preparation. And if you're not going to be there, what's the plan? Got to leave a plan for the sub. Okay. Once you have done all of your lesson plans, you're literally good. Once you've had a good round throughout the book, you're good because now when it's time for you to go back for your throughout the book on your second round, the lesson plan is there, but you may change your activities. So now you're just building. The first walkthrough, I was learning. Now I'm building. I'm building, and you'll see that your classes are now starting to get better and better and better. Teacher organization, preparation, look at that. Know your subject matter. Okay. Know your subject matter, current trends, student body size, plan activities, identify materials and equipment. Know your stuff. It's your classroom. This is what you're teaching. Know what you're talking about. Okay. Current trends, staying on top. I'm so tired of hearing what is it called? Marticule. I don't even know. I see people influencers using it on Facebook and TikTok, and I be telling people if it was a good product, y'all ran it in the ground because my estheticians. I'm not hearing none of my estheticians talk about it, and so that's something you have to. We have to have conversation about it in the classroom because they're gonna always bring you what TikTok got going on. You're gonna have to tell them good, bad, or in the middle. Current trends, okay? Korean skincare is big, but I try to always float them to the professional end, okay? Student body size. If you got 20 students, you got to be prepared. One student, 10 students, you got to be prepared. So your study guides, your print offs, where these people gonna sit, how they gonna sit together, the demo, is your clinic floor, your rooms big enough to have everybody working? Do you have enough tables? Do you have enough chairs? Find out from your admissions team how many people are starting next week so I can make sure by Friday I got my chairs, I got all my handouts, I got all my desks, I got everything I need to move forward for you to be successful. How many students you have. If you have 20 students, 10 can go on break at this time. 10 can go on break at that time. Can you handle all of them going at one time and then you taking 15 minutes to gather them all back together? So it just depends on what you want to do. Plan activities. With a large class, the activities got to be planned. With anytime you're doing a game, oh my goodness, the directions need to be clear. The directions need to be clear. So if you got to type them up, write them up, put them on the wall, whatever you need to do, directions need to be clear because if you confuse them in directions, the game is gone. So people are very competitive and they feel like you're favoring or whatever. That causes a whole rift for the week. Identify materials and equipment. Things that you need to be successful in the classroom. Okay, that's identifying. What do you need? Making sure you have enough of it for the lesson. Proper organization, understanding the student body. Now, there's the thing, empathy and sympathy. Okay, understanding your students. Everybody's not going to have a good day, but that's why I told you I have the word wall. And the word wall, even if I don't even deal with someone that has attitude, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because they probably don't want me in their face and I don't want that negative energy. So the first thing I do is say, hey, I hope you have a better day. What can I do to assist you? And do you want to take a moment at the word wall? Take you a break. I'd rather them take 15 minutes over at that word wall, an extra break. Guess what? Guess what? And do your 15 minutes over there and get yourself together. Do what you got to do. Think about your baby daddy. Pray, whatever you got to do. But you're not going to be 6 hours of miserable in my classroom. I can't do 6 hours of miserable. So take your 15 minutes, get yourself together. And when you come back, decide whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to go ahead and go. Okay. I just make it clear we got to have a different, I can't let you stay and have a rudeness. Now, they ain't got to say nothing to nobody. Ain't nobody making them do nothing, but you're not going to be disrespectful and rude and just ruin the classroom the rest of the day. Okay. So most of the time, I'm checking attitudes. When it says understand the student body, I'm checking attitudes. And over a period of time, you'll understand who's on monthly and who's going through divorce and all this and all kind of stuff going on. You will understand and keep the word wall. Go to the word wall. Even someone who may be annoying you, go take you a moment at the word wall. Or you may say, as a teacher, I'll be back. I got to go to the word wall. And you may be going to the corner of the classroom, but you're going to the word wall. Word wall. Everybody understand the word wall is a place to breathe and not worry about if you're going to get in trouble because you're not doing your work. You're not doing anything. The word wall is a place to breathe and just kind of get yourself together. And it has scriptures, it has motivational nuggets. It could just be a chair facing the wall, facing, and you're just like taking a moment with your face in your hands. And we know not to disturb you, but it is a place where you go and get all that out, and then you come back and join the group with a more positive attitude. If you can't have that positive attitude, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And I'd rather do that, and that works rather than telling them to clock out, get off my clock, da 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 da. That makes people, okay, you're trying to treat me like a kid. It causes a whole lot of unnecessary energy. And so we don't want to do that. Allow appropriate office time. I have time in the evening, time in the morning. Set up effective records. Okay, as far as management, you got to get an assistant, do what you got to do. You got to come in on not so much an off day, but if you got to stay over a little later, do what you got to do. Plan daily activities. That's in the lesson. Maintain current skills and knowledge. Sometimes the teacher got to go get a class. I'm about to get ready to go and do a cutting class. I want to do a cutting class. I can cut, I can style, I can do all that stuff, but I want to go do a cutting class. I think I want to go do a pixie class. And yeah, a cutting class. I'm gonna do that. And so that's my thing. I hadn't had a cutting class in a minute. I've been having a whole lot of AI, a whole lot of color training, but I'm gonna go do a cutting class, and I'm gonna go do. I really want to learn like microblading, but I think I might have to get my eyes checked again because I don't want, I'm stronger in one eye than I am the other. So I got to make sure that before I invest in that, I bring everybody, both eyes to where they need to be because I don't want to make one side up and one side down. So I'm going to do more skills. Everybody should be updating their skills and then maximize the budget. Do not go buy the most expensive thing. Maximize the budget. Proper organization. Develop professional handouts. That's why we have Canva. Review course materials and resources. See what you're working with. Okay. Create welcoming, safe environment. So if you got to do signage, create checklists, establish tone and expectations. This is what expected in this classroom. This is how we do it. You're not gonna yell. You're not gonna be yelling or bullying anybody in this classroom. I'm not gonna do it, and I'm not gonna allow it to happen to you. That's how we want to have the conversation. Okay. But if you got Canva and AI, update some of that stuff in the classrooms. I was going to go buy some posters. I'm not buying any posters. I'm going to create all my posters. The last 2 years, I've created all my posters on Canva and printed it out at Walgreens, okay, in poster size. And use their half off coupons and stuff, and little or nothing. That's how I did some decoration as far as at the school. Looking at general organization, copy material, properly file the material, file trade journals, arrange references and resource books, schedule office time. Okay, you got to put it in your schedule. I need to work. I need to work. I need to work. You know, classes from here to here. You make sure all the students are gone, collect the time clocks, and say, hey, I got scheduled. I need office time. Okay. Create support amongst the faculty. People keep saying you need some help. You saying I got it. No, utilize the help. Okay. Knowing students and organizing information. Create student profiles. Okay. This is where you're going to record student progress sheets. Okay. And student contacts. Knowing students and organizing information. Says successful educators will organize files and folders in a system that works best for them. All right, files and folders in a system that works best for them. Elements of the environment, make sure it's comfortable, make sure it's safe. This morning, we talked about well-ventilated spaces, making sure that there's freshness in the space. Also, you can't have too many people, as I said before, in one space. Got to keep that air around. So you need to invest in these classroom filters. Just got to have some ventilated space, some fresh air going around. Make sure it's organized, proper lighting, replace any bulbs that's missing, equipment operated safely, make sure it all works, okay? Appropriate storage, and educator needs to have a desk or work area. We look at considering the environment, student demographics, adult learner characteristics, the physical classroom, and the seating arrangements. If you look at this seating arrangements, as I was saying before, it looks like these students will stand up and work on the wall, but they're at these tables, okay? So they're already in group sessions at the table. I don't see a lot of space for them to put their kit at the table, so they're probably putting it under the mirror area over there. So this is the classroom, and then the seating arrangement. You may not want to have your 5 tables like this. You may want to do your tables another way, but you decide that. Looking at your adult learner characteristics, are they goal-oriented? Are they do they have past educational experience? Is this a second career, or are they a career student? Which means they just keep going to college. And sometimes you get a lot of veterans that have been to every training you could think of, okay? And then now they just landed in cosmetology some kind of way. Ingrained habits. Well, they said, this is just what I do. Also, and I tell them that it is a learned behavior as well. Someone said, oh, just call me the mom of the group. No, I'm sorry. There are no such thing as moms and dads of the group. All right. There's one leader, and I am no one's mom or dad of the group. I am their teacher. I'm their classroom leader. And so it just establishes authority in those places. And then you have established opinions. It is their opinion, and it's okay to agree to disagree. We don't linger on it, we move on, especially if they're going to give a whole dissertation of why they do not agree. Okay, they can pull the whole interest of the classroom away from what they're supposed to be teaching, supposed to be learning. Relationship to prior knowledge. Okay, what's been going on prior to being here? Involvement is needed. So they want involvement. You got to have some activities. They want communication. They want you to tell them about experiences. They want to be assured that this is what they're supposed to be doing. Student demographics. I'm always researching. What's the age group? What's the gender? What's the background of ethnic background of my students? What are some of their unique interests. I learned this the first month for all students. Getting to know students. Of course, we got that profile, but we put them into group sessions to brainstorm them. This is what we call icebreaker activities. You can put them into small groups to learn about each other and then let them share with each other different things that they thought was interesting. Your physical environment, we're looking at the size of the room, the acoustics, okay, how it can, about sound, lighting, ventilation, windows, blinds. You gotta have some type of audio visual in the classroom. These days, you're gonna need a radio and you're gonna need a TV. Okay. And the TV, they can watch videos, DVD, all that good stuff. But, and if you have rhythm learners, you got to have a radio. Most people have just one plain room, but you're going to have to bring some color into that room some kind of way. Also, when we think about the physical environment, we are talking about the temperature as well of the room. If it's too cold, students can't focus. If it's too hot, they still can't focus. So you got to make sure it's somewhere in between. The motivating classroom, this is how it looks. Equipment, supply storage, auditory visual distractions, clear view of learners. You can see the learners. They're not hiding behind stuff. Accessible materials. You create excitement. You look at the student and instructor needs. Classroom design. It needs to look like a classroom. It needs to look like educators are present. Arrive early and greet students. We come in when they come in. Arrive early and greet students. Pre-assigned seating. You can choose to do pre-assigned seating, or for adults, first come, first serve. All right. Learning activities scheduled. It's already on the books what we're going to do for the next 2-3 days. Motivational posters. Remember, we're adding value to the classrooms, and then bulletin boards. Information. People want updates on information. You may not put everything up there, but they want updates on information. Here's where we look at the use of color. Also, think about what emotion or what mood you want to portray in the classroom, or you want to keep. I had my instructors do like a mood board for one piece of the wall, because we use one piece of the wall. If you were using black, that gave this luxury, this depth to your bulletin board. But if you wanted at many times to make your students hungry, just paint your area, paint that little area red. It induces hunger. Hence, fast food restaurants use a lot of red in their signage. If you want some happiness, okay, I would use yellow. Okay, yellow represents happiness. If I wanted to more of a health kick and or talk about money, I would use green. If I want to establish loyalty, I would use purple. If I wanted to establish honesty, I would use blue, and so on and so on. If I wanted this very feminine look, I would make my little wall, or my information wall, the background would be pink. If I wanted more purely godly and heavenly, it would be white. And so they got the opportunity to really pull their personality out with their walls. So they had different color walls. Here's where it talks about use of color. Pale yellow, almond, non-irritating. Pale pink, light rose, soothing, relaxing. Green was a sense of security and creativity. Blue relaxes, secretes tranquility hormones. Orange agitates learners. It starts to become too much. It feels like anxiety a little bit. Bright yellow excites the brain and body, so it gives a little happiness. Seating arrangements, this is what I wanted to record, and I love a U shape. Oh my goodness. I love a U shape because I'm going to walk. Let me tell you what the teacher, I'm going to walk all up in here. I can see them when they test as well. I'm watching everybody. There's great conversation that can happen across here. But I am here. I'm walking across the front, down the middle, on the sides. I'm really taking, a real good look and walk of the classroom. So I love a U table and looking at a circle. It's almost close to, it gives the illusion of group training. Okay, so some people can be comfortable knowing that they're in a circle, they're in a group. Continued seating arrangements. You got a boardroom style where it's like rectangular, square shape. You got everybody around. Okay. At this here, sometimes you don't have people that have room to move around, but I still like a boardroom style. I can't move around a lot because that center is closed. And then the semicircle is good because I'm able to come here and come down. So I do like that as well. The seating arrangements, a traditional classroom. Okay. 2 chairs to a table. Chevron, it would be us putting our tables diagonal and then adding chairs from there. Additional seating arrangement, theater. Oh my. I like a theater classroom if I'm teaching like a class, like a product class or a show or something. I love a theater classroom. That amphitheater was probably the coolest classroom I've ever taught in because it just they go up like you're on the stage, so it's a pretty cool look from the outside in. And continuous seating arrangement, half rounds. So we saw in the classroom style, there were rounds with tables with chairs all around it. These are half rounds. So it opens up and gives you more look into the classroom, but makes the students a little closer together. This is great if you're looking for charts, videos. Okay. And so that's a great aspect as well. Half rounds. We look at the practical classroom, special needs accessibility. If you have anybody that has a special needs accessibility, you want to make sure that they have access to everything everybody else have access to. The stations, the equipment, supplies. Make sure you know your policies and procedures as it pertains to everybody. And then learning facilities checklist. Also with this classroom, where's the escape route? Okay, something happened. Where do we go from here? If it's weather danger, active shooter, what do we do from here? And so that's part of your policies now. A lot of schools do training on that. Teaching materials, what's relevant. Talk to your team about that as well to make sure we're in the right age, okay, not soul train age. Student level, where are they? Where they need, where we want to bring them to? What's the timeline we want to bring them to? Author, publisher, credibility, organization, and layout. Okay. Learning about your books. Yes, there's Malay, but also there's Pivot Point. But there's another one as well that's not really focused on pulling from the test. And so that's something you have to be able to talk to your students about. It's the materials you're using to teach them. Teaching materials, an example of an effective design textbook. Of course, you had textbook, you had highlights, you got kinesthetic activity materials, administrative responsibilities. And even though your job is to teach, you do have this list of administrative responsibilities. Please take note at 29. When we are welcoming our students, especially on the first day, we set the stage and mood for the remainder of the course. So if anything during orientation, our first day, first week, whatever, no matter if it's the first job, wherever you're going, remember, you're going to set the tone. As we begin to wrap it up, we're going over those goals and guidelines, preparation, things that educators have to look forward to. And remember, we want to make sure that we're motivating the students and creating a safe space in the classroom. The classroom may be the only thing they have because they may not have that voice of safety or security at home or in any other places. We don't know their life yet, okay? They're letting us in a little bit at a time. And so we have different things that, like resources that we can bring to. Let's look at retrospect, always looking at the benefits, things we can do. Our ultimate goals as a classroom leader is to make sure that we are planning, we're prepared, and we are setting the tones in our classroom. You just completed chapter 2. Okay, congratulations. You've completed 2 units of study in your instructor training program. It's just basically chapter 2. I want you to start on chapter 3. I'm going to email you. I know we went over, but I wanted to finish this because I was live streaming. I'm going to email you the study guide for 2, and I want you to get started. Just get started working on it. And when I see you next week, we're going to be on 3 and state board prep at the same time. Okay? Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I've been tuned in and focused the whole time.
The whole time.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. It's like, I don't know, I got a burst of excitement or something teaching this. But if you have any questions, anything you're thinking about later, just feel free to give me a call.